August 1st, 1943, Harlem was tearing itself apart. A white police officer shot a black soldier. The neighborhood erupted. 10,000 people filled the streets. Buildings burned. Blood stained the pavement. The NYPD failed to contain it. The mayor did nothing. Everyone expected the same outcome: tanks entering Harlem. Martial law, mass arrests, another reason to crush the community. Then Bumpy Johnson did the unthinkable. He stopped the riot himself. No police, no politicians, just one man with a megaphone and the respect of an entire neighborhood. When the smoke cleared and the streets fell silent, Bumpy made a single phone call to Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. What he demanded forced the mayor to make a decision that permanently changed NYPD history. That night proved real power doesn't come from a badge. It comes from the people. To understand August 1st, 1943, you have to understand Harlem at that time. World War II was underway. Black men were drafted to fight for American freedom overseas while being denied that same freedom at home. They served in segregated units and faced discrimination. When they returned on leave, wearing their uniforms proudly, white officers still called them boy, restaurants still refused them service, and they were still treated as outsiders in their own country. Harlem was under intense pressure, overcrowded, underfunded, and heavily policed by an NYPD that treated black neighborhoods as hostile zones instead of communities. Police didn't patrol Harlem. They occupied it. The violence was constant, not gang violence, but police violence. Beatings that never reached the newspapers. Arrests without cause. Harassment without end. Bumpy Johnson witnessed all of it. By 1943, he was 36 years old and already legendary. He had survived prison wars with Dutch Schultz and Lucky Luciano and everything the system had thrown at him. More importantly, he had earned something rare: Harlem's trust. When Bumpy walked down Lenox Avenue, people nodded not from fear, but from respect. Bumpy protected the neighborhood. When police extorted black businesses, he shut it down. When slumlords tried to throw families out, he made them pay. He was Harlem's unofficial mayor, and everyone knew it. Even Bumpy couldn't foresee what was coming. August 1st, 1943, 7:30 p.m. The Braddock Hotel on 126th Street. A black soldier named Robert Bandy, 26 years old, home on leave and wearing his U.S. Army uniform, stood in the lobby. He heard raised voices. A white police officer, James Collins, was arresting a black woman named Margie Polite for disorderly conduct. Her offense: arguing with the hotel manager over being overcharged. Officer Collins handled her roughly, gripping her arm and twisting it behind her back. She screamed in pain. Robert Bandy, who had spent the past year fighting fascism in Europe, couldn't watch a woman be abused by those sworn to protect her. He stepped forward. "Sir, you're hurting her." Officer Collins turned, noticed the uniform, and dismissed it. "Mind your business, boy. I'm not a boy. I'm a soldier." What happened next was described differently by witnesses, but the outcome was clear. Officer Collins pulled his gun and shot Robert Bandy in the shoulder of a soldier in uniform. Shot inside a hotel lobby in front of dozens of witnesses. Robert collapsed, blood soaking his army jacket. Collins radioed for backup and claimed Bandy had attacked him. It was a lie, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Within 20 minutes, the news raced through Harlem like fire. They shot a soldier. They shot one of our own. By 8 p.m., a crowd gathered outside the Braddock Hotel. 50 people became 100, then 500. By 9 p.m., the crowd had turned into a mob. And the mob was moving. What began at the Braddock Hotel rolled through Harlem like a wave. Years of anger. Years of humiliation. Years of injustice. All of it exploded at once. Store windows shattered not. Black-owned businesses, those were spared but white-owned stores. The ones that charged Harlem residents double. The ones that refused to hire black workers. Those burned police cars were overturned. Officers who entered the streets were hit with bricks, bottles, anything people could throw. The NYPD tried to form lines and push the crowds back, but they were outnumbered 50-1. By 10 p.m., the commissioner called the mayor. "We've lost control." Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, known as a progressive, faced a choice: send reinforcements with orders to crack skulls, or call in the National Guard. Either way, people would die. He chose the Guard and gave them 90 minutes to mobilize. What the mayor didn't understand was this: Harlem wasn't rioting because they were criminals. They were rioting because they were exhausted, tired of being shot, tired of being ignored, tired of watching their sons fight overseas for a country that treated them like the enemy. And into that chaos stepped Bumpy Johnson at 11:15 p.m. Bumpy walked out of Small's Paradise, his base on 135th Street. Smoke filled the air. Fires burned. Sirens screamed. People ran in every direction. This wasn't organized violence. This was pain with nowhere else to go. His lieutenants surrounded him. "Boss, we've got to get you out of here. The guard's coming." P looked at the burning streets. He looked at his people destroying their own neighborhood. He looked at police in riot gear, waiting for a reason to shoot. Then he made a choice. "Get me a bullhorn." "What?" "Get me a bullhorn and a car." 5 minutes later, Bumpy stood on the hood of a Cadillac at 125th Street and Lenox Avenue, the heart of Harlem, the center of the chaos. His driver leaned on the horn, a long, steady blast. Heads turned. People recognized him. Slowly, the noise began to fade. Bumpy lifted the bullhorn. "Listen to me." His voice cut through everything, calm, steady, commanding. The crowd quieted, not completely. Fires still burned. Glass still shattered in the distance. But the people closest to him stopped and listened. "I know why you're angry. I'm angry too. They shot Robert Bandy for doing what any man would to protecting a woman. And that cop will probably get a medal while Robert lies in a hospital fighting for his life. I know." He paused and let it settle. "But look around you. Look at what you're burning. Whose stores are these? Whose homes? Yours? You're burning your own neighborhood. And when the smoke clears tomorrow, who's going to pay to rebuild? Not the NYPD, not City Hall. You." Voices shouted back. "They deserve it. They shot one of us." Bumpy nodded. "You're right. They do deserve it. But this is what they want. They want you to burn your own streets so tomorrow they can roll tanks in and say, 'See? They're animals.' They need control. They want an excuse." Key pointed toward the police line. 3 blocks away, officers in riot gear, waiting. "You see them? They're waiting for one more brick, one more fire. Because when you give it to them, they get to shoot. And when bodies hit the ground, they won't blame the cop who shot Robert. They'll blame you." Now the crowd was truly listening. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going home. You're checking on your families. And you're going to let me handle this." Someone yelled. "What are you going to do?" Bumpy smiled, cold, dangerous. "I'm going to call the mayor. And I'm going to tell him that if the cops who caused this aren't gone by tomorrow, the next time I won't stop the riot. I'll lead it." At 11:52 p.m., the streets began to clear, not because police ordered it, but because Bumpy Johnson did. People went home. Fires were put out. When the National Guard entered Harlem at midnight, there was nothing left to suppress. The riot was over. The guard commander radioed the mayor. "Sir, the situation is contained. We don't understand it, but the streets are calm." Empty. Mayor LaGuardia sat in his office, unsettled. The phone rang. "Mayor, you have a call." He says his name is Bumpy Johnson. LaGuardia paused. He knew the name. Every politician in New York knew it. But Bumpy Johnson didn't call mayors. Mayors pretended men like Bumpy didn't exist. "Put him through." Bumpy's voice came across the line, calm, almost cordial. "Mr. Mayor, this is Bumpy Johnson. We haven't been formally introduced, but I believe you know who I am. Mr. Johnson, I'm familiar with your reputation. Good. Then you know I just did your job for you. I stopped a riot your police couldn't control. 10,000 people were in those streets, and I sent them home. You're welcome. LaGuardia stiffened. I don't recall asking for your assistance. You didn't have to. Unlike you, I live in Harlem. These are my people, and I'm not going to let them destroy themselves because your cops don't know how to behave like civilized men. Officer Collins has been suspended, pending investigation. Suspended. Bumpy's voice hardened. That's not going to be enough. Excuse me? Here's how this is going to go. Mr. Mayor, Officer Collins is gone. Not suspended, fired. And every other officer in that precinct who's beaten a black citizen without cause I have their names. 8 of them. They're gone too. You can't make demands. I'm not making demands. I'm informing you. Because here's the deal. I stopped this riot. But next time a cop lays hands on one of my people, Lee won't stop it. I'll fuel it. You think tonight was bad? Tonight was me showing restraint. There was silence on the line. You can't threaten the mayor of New York City. Bumpy laughed. I'm not threatening you, Mr. Mayor. I'm offering you a solution. You want peace in Harlem. You want your police to walk these streets without bricks flying at them. Then you clean house. You remove the cops who think a badge gives them the right to beat black people. Do that, and I guarantee you won't see another riot. And if I don't, then next time I won't make a phone call. I'll make a statement, and you'll have a war on your hands. LaGuardia sat staring at the phone. He knew Bumpy was right. He knew Collins was corrupt. He knew much of the Harlem precinct was dirty. But firing officers, especially white officers, the insistence of a black gangster, would be political suicide. So, would another riot? I'll look into it. You've got 72 hours, Mr. Mayor. After that, I can't control what happens. The line went dead. August 4th, 1943. 3 days later, the New York Times published a brief article on page 7. 8 NYPD officers dismissed after an internal review. No names, no details, just removed. Officer James Collins was fired and charged with assault. The charges were later dropped, but he never wore a badge again. The people of Harlem knew who made it happen. Not the mayor, not the NYPD commissioner. Bumpy Johnson. Mayor LaGuardia never publicly acknowledged the phone call. For the remainder of his term, he was cautious with Harlem, cautious with police behavior, because that night he understood something clearly. Bumpy Johnson held more power in those streets than any elected official. And that power came from respect, from loyalty, from being the one man who stood between the community and a system determined to crush it. Years later, in 1965, after Malcolm X was assassinated, the NYPD turned to Bumpy Johnson to help keep the peace. They didn't call the mayor. They called Bumpy because they knew who truly ran Harlem. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968 at his funeral. Thousands filled the streets not because he was a gangster, but because he was a protector. A man who understood that sometimes the only way to stop violence is to have the courage to step into the middle of it and say, "Enough." August 1st, 1943, Bumpy Johnson stopped a riot by refusing to let his people destroy themselves. Then he forced the most powerful white man in New York to answer for the violence caused by his police. That wasn't just power. That was legacy. If this story of how Bumpy stopped a war with one voice hit different, hit subscribe. We're telling the real stories of Harlem's protector, the moments that made him a legend. Drop a like if you think Bumpy Johnson held more power than the mayor. Comment would you have made that phone call. More legendary stories are coming next. Don't miss it.